Hello, Craig.
Hi, Craig.
Hey, Craig.
Hi, Craig.
Hello, Craig.
Hi, Craig.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Paddocks. It's time for a new episode. Today, we're going to talk about a team principal many of us love, and that is Toto Wolff from Mercedes. Now, from his early life as a driver on the grid to becoming the team principal at Mercedes and helping them win multiple constructors and driver championships, it's time to dive in. On this episode, we have Amy, Drea, Ito, and Melissa, and we're going to start off with Drea and his early life.
Yes, so Toto, in fact, that's not really his name. That's his nickname. His real name is Toger Christian Wolff, and he was born on January 12th, 1972. Oh my god, he's as old as my parents. His father was Austrian and his mom was Polish. And when Toto was 8, his dad was diagnosed with brain cancer. And then he ended up passing when Toto was 15. So we are sorry. My condolences to Toto for your dad. That must have been rough. Toto's mom was a physician and his parents split up after his father's diagnosis when he was 8. So Toto grew up in the city and he went to Lycée Français de Vienna, which is a prestigious French school. We love international boys. And guess that explains how he knows so many languages. He went to a French school, but he was born in Austria. His parents are also from different countries. A lot of things happening there. In an interview, Toto explained that he wasn't the greatest student, but he got through each, quote, year by the tiniest of margins, end quote. So I don't know how he got by the tiniest of margins in school and now made it to what he is today, but we're going to go over to Melissa to explain how he got started.
Thank you, Drea. So by the time Toto was 17 years old, his interest in motorsport began, all thanks to a small weekend trip to Amsterdam with his mates. Toto has said in an interview with this famous F1 podcast, Beyond the Grid, that on the way back from their weekend getaway, he and his friends had stopped by and I'm sorry for the mispronunciation because I'm going to butcher this, the Nürburgring track. There, Toto got to see his friend Philip Peter compete in the German Formula 3 championship. And then from there, as Toto stated, he caught the bug. I think we can all relate to Toto once we got into the sport of Formula 1 too. He then decided to save up his money from Christmas and his birthday and use it towards attending the Walter Lechner Racing School at the old A1 Ring, now known as the Red Bull Ring in Spielberg, Austria. And at that time, Toto was unable to afford a single-seater car and opted for a different one, a SEAT or Seat Ibiza, which doubled as his road car. For those who don't know, the Seat Ibiza is a super mini car by the Spanish manufacturer. Seat stands for Sociedad Española de Automóviles de Turismo. In English, it translates to Spanish Touring Automobiles Company. While at the racing school, Toto also became an instructor, and soon enough, he began racing for the Austrian and German Ford. By 1991, Toto began his racing career in the Austrian Formula 4 Championship, followed by driving in the Austrian and German Formula Ford in 1993 and 94. In that same year, 1994, Toto had won the 24 Hours Nürburgring in his category. But unfortunately for him, his racing career was cut short due to financial concern and the up-and-coming talent within the sport. Ultimately, Toto had explained later on that one of his sponsors had dropped after the Senna and Wendlinger incidents in 1994. Again, apologies for my mispronunciation. However, in 2002, it appears that Toto had made his return to the motorsport world, and he ended up finishing in 6th place in the NGT category in the FIA GT Championship and won only one race. The following year, he made the change to the Italian GT Championship in 2003. There, he won with Lorenzo Case, and by 2006, he was a runner-up in the Austrian Rally Championship and winner of the 2006 Dubai 24 Hour. Now that we got familiarized with Toto's history in motorsport, let's get into how he got into Formula 1 with Ito.
Yeah, Toto's foray into Formula 1 actually started in 2009 when he bought a stake in Williams, which makes sense when you look at a couple of factors. For one, it is a very historically significant team For more info on that, check out their episode we did a while back. And to this day, Williams kind of functions as a development team for Mercedes, if you will, which coincidentally, Wolff has been a CEO and team principal of since 2010. The weird part with his Williams stake is that shortly after, they actually managed to win their last race to date at the Spanish GP, which you kind of would think made Toto regret his decision to invest in the team. But by all accounts, to this day, he seemingly hasn't because, as I mentioned, Mercedes oftentimes uses Williams as a development team, like promoting Williams drivers up into Mercedes seats. Examples include Nico Rosberg, Valtteri Bottas, and current Mercedes driver George Russell. While he left his executive director role at Williams in 2013 to join Mercedes as executive director and managing partner and acquired a 30% stake in the team, he didn't completely let go of Williams at that point. All this was always done together with his business partner, Renee Berger, and three-time Formula One champion Niki Lauda. For his first year at Mercedes, he still held on to his stake in Williams, but would soon sell part of his stake, and by 2016, he had sold everything. In the meantime, while he was part owner of both teams, he achieved some crazy statistics, such as the 1, 2, 3, 4 finish in Austria and Monza, and the 2 front row lockout in Monza. The next record after he got rid of his stake in Williams that he managed to get was the 7 consecutive double World Driver Championships, meaning that they were all won in a row. This record was actually previously held by Ferrari in the early 2000s with 5 wins. So amassing 2 more to those 5 is huge. But what makes this even more impressive is in that time period, Mercedes also managed to win 8 Constructors' Championships as a team. Mercedes, with Toto at the helm, truly were the guys to beat in the mid to late 2010s. For those achievements, he also received a bunch of awards, such as the John Bolster Award and the FIA President's Award, which he both received with Lauda, and they were both awarded in 2018. 2018, as a whole, was Toto's most successful year to date in F1, as it was the year when Mercedes won not only in F1, but also F2 with George Russell, F3 with current Mercedes reserve Mick Schumacher, in DTM, in esports, and even in customer racing. Toto and motorsports were on a roll in 2018. While 2019 didn't see as many championship wins across motorsports, Wolff's team still managed to create another record by winning the Constructors' title as early as the 17th round out of 21 at Suzuka, Japan. This was done because at that point, the 2 Mercedes drivers of Hamilton and Bottas were so far ahead of everyone else in the title fight that only those 2 could still become drivers' champion. It was announced in 2020 that Toto had signed a 3-year extension on his Mercedes contract, meaning we would see him be at the team for a bit more. But that also means because now in 2023, we should be expecting some more contract news. So fingers crossed, he will stay at Mercedes. But looking at all those records and everything, I don't think he will go anywhere just yet. But that doesn't mean he doesn't do other things outside of F1.
So, as Ito said, Toto does a lot outside of F1, and I kind of had to go down an internet rabbit hole just to kind of understand it all. So, to start with Toto's background, this man has done everything from investments to Formula E to teaching. Start with his investment life. He started an investment company as early as 1989 and a second in 2004, the names being March 15 and March 16. They both initially focused on internet and technology company investments, but around 2003, he decided that he was going to concentrate on strategic investments in medium-sized industrial companies. Some of those investments included the German HWA AG, that he bought a 49% stake in 2006, listing the company on the stock exchange in 2007. The company ran the Dutch Touarwagen Masters race program for Mercedes-Benz, which then was developing 3 engines, and the Goldwing Mercedes SLS AMG GT3 racing car. He also invested in something called the BRR Rally Racing, which is one of the largest rally part dealers in Europe. He also co-owned a sports management company with former F1 driver Mika Hakkinen and was involved in the management of racing drivers such as Bruno Springler, Alexandre Primat, and everyone's favorite, Valtteri Bottas. In April of 2020, Toto actually acquired a 4.95% stake in Aston Martin Lagonda Global Holdings as a financial investment, which subsequently diluted to actually a less than 1% of investment for him. In June of 2020, he still held a 5% stake in Williams F1, which he, as was mentioned previously, was sold with the purchase of Williams by Drillton Capital. Now, as everybody has mentioned, Toto and motorsport just go hand in hand. Toto was the director and CEO of the Mercedes EQ Formula E team and occasionally attended Formula E races. In August of 2021, he was seen at Berlin as Mercedes won the Drivers and Teams Championship in Formula E, at a race that actually was won by Venturi driver Norman Nato, where his wife, Miss Susie Wolff, had become the first female team principal to stand on a podium at a World Championship motor race, which was fantastic to watch. That race did have Venturi driver Ito Murata finishing in second in the Drivers' Championship, and the Wolffs led their respective teams to first and second position in the Formula E Drivers' Championships. A little fun fact about Toto in regards to education, he actually has an honorary doctorate from Cranfield University for his service in motorsports that he received in May of 2021. Now, as I mentioned, Toto is involved in education recently. In November of 2020, he was appointed to be an associate fellowship at Oxford Business School for 2 years in order to transfer his understanding of high-performance culture and team leadership and personal effectiveness from the racetrack to the classroom. Now, in February of 2022, his leadership of Mercedes-AMG PETRONAS F1 was the subject of a Harvard Business School case study, and he visited the university in March to teach the case study to MBA students and led a discussion on high-performance leadership and organizational culture. I, being a Boston girl, was so disappointed that I could not have been able to see him in person. When I saw the photos, I was losing it in my apartment. I was so jealous of every single MBA student in that classroom. Now, in May of 2022, he was named an executive fellow at the business school, and it's a role that will serve as a guest lecturer alongside the professor Anita Ellsberg, who actually published the case study. And I just think that's really fantastic. I am really kind of wishing that I had decided to go get an MBA at Harvard, but oh well, didn't quite happen for me. Now, as I'm sure some people have figured out about me if you've listened to our podcast for a bit, I love me a fun fact. And while going down the total rabbit hole, I found that this man is fluent in German, English, French, Italian, and Polish, and I swear there's nothing this man cannot do.
I'm with Amy on Toto being a guest speaker, guest lecturer at Harvard. I'm like a good 8-10 hours away, and I would drive all the way up there just to hear that man talk. I probably wouldn't even know what he's talking about, to be honest, because I don't know anything about business. I'm a social work major, so there's that. But I would love to listen to him talk. I mean, it would be fun to attend and be like, yeah, I saw Toto Wolff. No big deal.
Well, Melissa, you know you can always stay with me if you ever do decide you want to come to Boston. But I think everybody could listen to Toto talk. There's just something about that man. I would love to have him like narrate an audiobook. I know that sounds oddly weird and maybe a little too specific. He's just got one of those voices. I could just listen to him talk all day, and I really, I question how some people get through his classes.
He gives like Matthew McConaughey vibes of Matthew McConaughey being on like those sleep apps and everything. Like, he's just calm. And honestly, I just love all his quotes from Drive to Survive. Like, I could just listen to those all day on repeat. There's so many iconic ones. Yeah, he never has a down moment, so.
I mean, honestly, I must agree with Drea in terms of quotable content, because I don't want to say how many Toto Wolff stickers I have that say, like, for example, his "No, Mikey, no, this is just not right," and stuff like that, or a sticker of him just smashing the headphones, which, honestly, Mercedes, how do you not hit the cost cap with him just smashing almost one headset a race? But more power to you. And I mean, this man's just gold from everything he's done. And like, what I appreciate most about him is that he's a team principal that has had a racing career himself. I feel like most team principals, at least the good ones, have to have had a race career. And I mean, I feel like him having had a race career and like having had all these experiences makes him also such a great mentor, because he's known for giving drivers either that were in Formula One, lost their seat for a season, or were trying to get into Formula One and just couldn't. He takes them under his wing and gives them a chance. I mean, there's so many examples. Amy, do you want to touch on them?
I just feel like we can always count on Toto Wolff to be like the Formula One fairy godfather of like just saving all of our favorites. Esteban Ocon, Mick, he's taken Stoffel Van Dorn under his wing, Nick DeVries. Like, I just kind of can always count on Toto to save somebody that I genuinely like want to see in motorsport. And it's just, yeah, he's just Mr. Reliable for that kind of thing. I don't know why.
What I can appreciate now that we're on that subject about him being like the mentor or like the fairy godfather of Paddock, it's just that he's always willing to like stand up for them or speak really like well of that driver. Like, we've seen some shade towards like Mick with his last team that he was with, and then here comes Mercedes and Toto saying like, no, like Mick is, excuse my French, the shit, and he knows what he's doing, and he's definitely worthy of an F1 seat. It's just a matter of time of when it's going to happen. So I've always appreciated him for that. And he's also like, I get the vibe that he's also like that type of person, like he doesn't take shit from people, and I like that too. Like, you know, good balance.
Yeah, and at the same time, I feel like you don't want to get on his bad side either, because he has no filter. Like, remember when the whole Mick thing went down last season? And he was defending him, like saying the Schumacher name belongs in F1, like Mick just needs more time, etc., etc. But he also put the blame, or some of the blame at least, on Mick's old team, and especially his old team principal. And I'm not going to repeat what he said, because I'm not going to do it justice, and B, you can look it up. It's funny AF to listen to what he actually said. But still, I feel like he has a heart of gold, but is still such a good leader because of his heart of gold. It's just an amazing combo.
I think that if he ever decides he doesn't want to travel as much to each of the races as team principal, at this point, he should just be a lawyer for the team. He has all his facts straight. He knows how to win the arguments. He knows how to do the rebuttals. I think he should go and do it. He always has something to say back, and it's very well put compared to Christian's, like, more petty. Toto makes sure everything's in order.
I mean, never forget in the last season of Drive to Survive when they were arguing and Christian was like, bring out your drivers, whatever the quote was. And you just see Toto like put up his hand and he's like, I have it printed out. And it's like, yes, come with the receipts. Like any person should. Like, it's just like little things like that. Like he comes with the facts, essentially. He talks that talk and he makes sure he has that background information to back it up.
Yes, Toto is always one to come with every single possible fact he can find for anything, whether it's going to the FIA or going toe-to-toe with Christian Horner. Like, he is just a man who's the Boy Scout. He always comes prepared. It's my favorite thing about him. It's, again, he's Mr. Reliable. You can just kind of always count on Toto to just, like, know his stuff in every situation.
I also love how memeable this guy is. Never forget the raincoat. I forgot what race it was, but he became Darth Toto. Or that like one meme, the Kermit the Frog meme with the hood. I love that Kermit the Frog meme, and I will never live that down. Now every time I wear a little rain jacket and have the hood up, I, embody him.
Anytime we get a Darth Toto appearance, anybody that knows me and knows my love of all things nerd, I giggle. I can't help it. It's just the best thing that ever graces my screen when it rains. I sometimes want a rain race just to see Darth Toto appear.
It's actually funny that you mentioned Darth Toto, because I just checked the weather in Austria for this weekend, and it looks like we might get some rain. So he might make an appearance.
I do think Dark Toto is all of us at one point or time with our hilariousness and just like out in the rain.
I just realized, did we do Christian Horner dirty by doing Toto right before his venues race? Sorry, Red Bull.
He did no. It's Red Bull's team race, so we did Red Bull first. So technically, it's fine.
It's fine. Christian would have pulled something like this anyways, too.
And y'all spoke about Christian.
When in
anyways,
Rome.
too.
Yeah, I mean, we sang Christian's praises in Red Bull last night. Are you kidding?
Christian would have tried to take the spotlight anyways, and he will make it his own no matter who it's featuring. So I think we're okay.
Plus, I feel like just like certain drivers are emotional support rivals, I feel like those two have a similar vibe.
Genuinely think they like secretly are best friends and we just don't know it. Like, I swear to God, I bet you money that these two are like off at Horner's mansion, hanging out and having a blast, and everybody in the internet thinks that they cannot stand each other.
Do y'all remember, is it them or am I thinking of Max and Lewis where they're like, I'm not going to dinner with him? I feel like they definitely have had multiple dinners though.
They definitely camped out at Horner's backyard like they did in the last season with their kids. You know it.
They secretly get along when behind the scenes versus on Drive to Survive, they hate each other. So who knows? I think they just are very competitive people who love to win and test each other to the limits.
Amen. I mean, I feel like, especially with Drive to Survive, it's all so dramatized that it can't be that dramatic, especially because F1 is such a bubble that if you wouldn't get along, everyone would know. Whereas I think until Drive to Survive, there wasn't really that much media around their whole supposed rivalry as there was since Drive to Survive came about. So I think a lot of it is manufactured. But that's just me.
But honestly, at the end of the day, they're on opposite teams. They're competing against each other. So, I mean, of course, you would say what you say and they would say what they say. And it's just a friendly rivalry, I guess you can say. Because, I mean, yeah, they want to win. They want to be the number one. No one wants to be number 2 or number 3. So, of course, it's going to come out.
I think the only time Toto has been okay being number 2 is whenever somebody had said, "Oh, you're Susie's husband," and he goes, "Yeah, that's true." Like, he fully accepted it that they didn't know his name, or like he wasn't the one that was titled first. Compared to Christian, I don't know how he would react if we called him Mr. Spice or Mr. Ginger. I'm sorry, guys. I'm too young to know who they were.
I'm sorry, you do not know who Jerry is? You don't know oh, that one hurts my heart. You don't know the Spice Girls. Oh,
I know
so
from
old,
the
y'all.
internet, but not like I was a One Direction person.
Let me go put on my anti-wrinkle cream now because I just felt real old after that.
Now, I think my favorite thing about Toto is the fact that he is his wife's biggest hype man. I love seeing men support their women, and nobody supports his woman better than Toto Wolff does. It's fantastic. There are behind the scenes things of her at Formula E events, One Academy, and he's just on the side beaming, looking like the biggest cheerleader on the planet, and it just gives me so much serotonin.
I mean, she was a team principal, and I feel like without her husband's support, she would have never, as sad as it is to say, become a team principal in such a male-dominated sport. So it makes sense that he's always there cheering her on and helping with everything.
So back when Toto got back into racing after Rally Car and then ended up buying some stake into Mercedes, he actually got to know the Mercedes Junior program and one of the managers of the Mercedes Junior program, and then joined forces to become a co-investor at the time, but then end up surprisingly buying Mercedes-AMG, or like stake in it. It was previously owned by Mr. Offrachette, and fun fact, that actually ended up being Toto's mentor for many years to come, as he kind of became that team principal, that stakeholder, that person that actually is the force to be reckoned with today. And he actually will say to this day, like, he loves this man to death. I believe Mr. Alfachet is like in his 80s now, and just he doesn't really come around the track, but you can catch him at some of the major events. So when I think Lewis won his like 5th or 6th world title, he was there to kind of cheer on the team of all their success. That's a little fun fact if you didn't know anything about Toto.
I mean, that just goes to show even a mentor has a mentor. Because I feel like you can't be a good mentor to others if you yourself weren't necessarily mentored. Because we all gotta learn and start somewhere.
Now, I want to pose a little fun, random question that I thought about while we were recording this. I want to know what everybody would ask Toto if you had the opportunity to ask him advice on one thing. I think I would love to get that man's advice on business, because he just kind of seems like he's always made the right moves, and I really want to know what he uses, kind of gauge what decisions he makes. I'd just love to know.
As someone who was a business major in college, I would love to pick his brain about how he did some of the financial decisions for him and how he kind of worked his way in there, because this lone girl doing business in a company definitely is not there. So she needs to learn a little pointer or two, please.
I think I would ask him about like leadership, how to like run the team and how to balance out like so many personalities, so many opinions, just a lot of different things, because in like the teams that I work, I've seen different types of supervisors and different type of leaders, but some of them weren't able to like balance or work with such personalities. And like I know, like looking in through a screen, we can see Lewis and George are completely like different type of drivers, different type of people in general. So it's like I just want to know how like him as a leader, as a team principal, how is he able to like manage that, and how to find that equal medium between his 2 drivers and in general Mercedes-AMG Petronas. I'm gonna pull Lewis and be like, what is it again? His F1 team, Because you have to know how to run the ship, and for him to be able to win 8 constructors championships, that says a lot, and he knows what he's doing.
I would love to get career advice from him, because I feel like he always kind of knew what he wanted, and I feel like on a personal level, what I want changes very rapidly, and I'm like, how do I get that mindset of knowing what I want and just sticking with it? Like, does he have any advice?
I would like to know his balance of, he's a CEO, he's a team principal, he has a wife, he has kids, he's over here in Boston doing stuff with a college. Like, how does he balance it all? When does he sleep? When does he, I guess while he's traveling, but then how does he stay awake and not get jet lag so much? Like, I don't know how he does it, to be honest. I want to know. What is your schedule, bro? Not to like be creepy, just like, how do you do it?
I'm about to nerd out here, but he probably has the little time turner thing, and I'm probably saying the wrong name, but it's what Hermione used in The Prisoner of Azkaban to travel in time to go to multiple classes. That's what he probably has, and I'm going to stick to that. That's it. That's how he does it. That's how he balances. That's how he's able to be CEO, team principal, a guest lecturer at Harvard, and a dad. That's it. That's what he has.
The crossover we didn't know we needed.
Or, if we want to be more realistic, I don't think it's a coincidence that Monster Energy sponsors Mercedes. I think he chugs that shit. Although, he probably decants it into like a fancy glass or whatever. I don't see him chugging the can.
Speaking of Monster, I'm going to need them to come out with a Toto Wolff special edition Monster drink, just like how they have the Lewis one. Even though the Lewis one is impossible to find, we need a Toto Wolff one now.
Toto would sell so many cans if he had his own. People would buy it just to support him, and he should get like a little revenue from that. But also, I don't know if he drinks it because like he's super healthy. Super healthy.
I bet you he is a coffee black kind of guy, if he even drinks coffee. He is such a health nut. I genuinely would even question if he consumes traditional coffee. Maybe he's an espresso guy. Who knows? I don't see him drinking Monster. That doesn't really, while it's a team sponsor, it just doesn't feel on brand for Toto.
I mean, you guys remember that one DTS episode where we basically got insight into his breakfast order? While I don't remember what he drank, it could have been coffee, it could have been tea, who knows? I do remember his very specific instruction on how he wants his pumpernickel bread toasted. And as a German speaker, because he gave the order in German, it was comedy gold. Because he basically was like, I want it to be so burnt it disintegrates.
I actually remember that, and I remember hearing it and going, oh my gosh, like this man, he gets me. He gets me. As someone who speaks German, and I'm able to be just like, hey, you speak it? What? Okay. It just makes me like him even more.
Okay, and if you've listened to us for a little bit, you realize that we like to do a pre-outro. So we kind of really would have picked a funny quote, but I really wanted to go with one of my favorite principal quotes from Toto, and I'm really hoping that this is something that they're bringing into this coming weekend for Mercedes, and that is that we must be relentless and resilient. So good luck to Mercedes this weekend. I know we're all looking forward to seeing if we maybe get a Darth Toto sighting. Who knows?
And that is our Toto Wolff episode. We're going to be doing different team principal spotlights in the future too, bringing you guys a little bit more info. So stay tuned for that. Let us know what your favorite thing you learned about Toto today is and who you would like to learn more about in the future. As always, keep up with us on our socials as Paddock Girls Podcast on everything except Twitter. She's a little special as Paddock Girls Pod. Thank you for joining us in the paddock. We'll see you next episode. Bye, Craig.
Bye, Craig.
See you, Craig.
Bye, Craig.
Bye, Craig.
Bye, Craig.